Well, I've been wearing an Apple Watch Series 3 since about 5 years ago, and Apple finally dropped something that I might actually have to replace this watch with. In fact, it seems like Apple almost designed this watch for a person like me. Almost. Let's take a look. Hey y'all, it's Dr. Know-It-All. So yes, indeed, I am talking about the Apple Watch Ultra, which is a new sort of athlete-centered Apple Watch. As you can see from the movie that's playing in the background on Apple's page, it's designed for people who do lots of things like running and mountain climbing and rock climbing and scuba diving and surfing and all sorts of other things. And hey, as it turns out, I happen to actually do most of those things myself. Of course, maybe I don't run through the Mojave Desert like this, but I do go running. I also scuba dive once in a while, as frequently as I can get to some decent water. I also surf as frequently as I'm able to do. In fact, I hopefully will be surfing about a day from when I record this. So fingers crossed, I'll be surfing in San Diego tomorrow evening. And I also rock climb all the time. In fact, I just came from the rock climbing gym. And I also alpine climb, again, as frequently as I'm able to. And at least for me, it feels like the Apple Watch is designed for somebody who likes to do a lot of things, but not necessarily all of them super seriously. And I'm going to get into that in a minute. But first, what is the competition for the Apple Watch? Why are they releasing this? Well, first of all, Google and Android are releasing several new sort of like high-level fitness watches. But I think the big competition for Apple is, of course, Garmin. And I'm going to specifically talk about the Garmin Descent because the Garmin Descent has scuba diving stuff included. So this is an all-black Garmin Descent. It looks very nice. There's also this 52mm Garmin Descent, which optionally includes air integration for scuba diving. And if you're not interested in the scuba stuff, you can always get the Garmin Fenix and save a great deal of money. So you can see it's somewhere between $1,000 and $1,300 without the air integration. If you add that, then all of a sudden you're jumping up to $1,500 or so. So these watches are not terribly inexpensive. And the fact that the Apple Watch comes in at $800 is actually fairly good, right? That's actually a couple $100 cheaper than a watch like this. Now, there are, of course, some caveats with this. The Garmin Descent Mk2 has several things that the Apple Watch doesn't have, including a deeper diving limit. It will actually allow you to dive up to 100 meters and allow you to use the computer up to that depth, whereas the Apple Watch says that it only allows up to 40 meters of diving depth. Even though it has a depth rating of 100 meters, it only allows you to dive up to 40 meters. And by the way, depth ratings are pretty darn goofy because, for example, I brought a whole bunch of watches with me today. Like this is my Omega Seamaster Pro 300, which is an absolutely lovely watch, 42mm by the way. And I'm going to try these on for size for like comparison to show. One of the issues I have is how big the Apple Watch Ultra is. But anyway, this thing is a 42mm watch and it's rated to 300 meters of depth. So you think like, oh, you can go to 300 meters. You're not supposed to do that. Realistically, even though this has a helium escape valve and everything, you would never really take this past recreational diving limits, which is about 40 meters. Then I've got my current scuba diving watch, which is the Scuba Pro Z1 or Z1 computer. This is about 52mm this direction and about 49 this direction. So if you look at the end to end, it's actually just as big as this Garmin Descent is as well. But anyway, this also has a depth rating of 100 meters for the computer to operate. And this also has many, many gas mixes and things like that. So this can actually be used for technical diving. So the 100-meter rating is actually pretty reasonable for a watch like this because this actually can be used for technical diving. The Descent Mk2, on the other hand, I'm not so positive it's really designed for technical diving, although it probably would do pretty well for that. So 100 meters is reasonable if you're going to be doing technical diving. If you're only a recreational diver, then really you're not allowed to go past 40 meters anyway, or about 132 feet. So that means that the Apple Watch Ultra, even though it's only rated to 40 meters, is actually perfectly adequate for recreational divers, which is why I say it's kind of designed for a person like me, right? Because I like to go scuba diving. I only do recreational diving, and I'm only able to do it once in a while. So it's actually nice to have a watch that will function as other things in the meantime. And one of the problems with something like this is clearly just a dive computer. This is, you wear it on vacation and it functions as a watch and everything, but it's not something that I would wear out, as a dress thing or elegant. It's very thick, very big, and it's, an LCD screen, so it's not very elegant. So it's certainly not something that I'm going to wear to dinner someplace at a fancy restaurant. Whereas this, pretty much stealth mode, I can wear this all over the place. So anyway, the Apple Watch, and this is a Series 3, so it's a little bit smaller than the later versions, but this is 41mm this direction, the long way, but only about 36 or 37 millimeters wide. So this is actually a relatively small watch. The Omega Seamaster Pro is around 42 millimeters, and you can see how it's significantly larger than this. I guess if you try to put them on top of each other, you can see how the Omega actually sticks out behind the Apple Watch. So it indicates just how big this watch is compared to this, even though this is registered as a 41 millimeter watch. So that actually does give me a little bit of hope, because this is registered as a 41 millimeter watch, but it actually wears much smaller. And the Apple Watch Ultra here is listed as a 49 millimeter watch, which makes it really, really large, but it's possible it's only 49 millimeters in the long direction and it's skinnier in the other direction. So it might be a little bit more elegant than the dimensions at first indicate. So since this watch doesn't ship until September 23rd, what sort of facts do we know about it? And I'm referencing here an article from The Verge, and by the way, I'll leave a link to all of these in the description. But anyway, you can see the watch here, not on a person's wrist, but you can see it's a titanium shell. Again, 49 millimeters, I believe, top to bottom. That seems to be consistent with this version of the watch being 41 millimeters this way. So 49 millimeters probably in the long way and a little bit skinnier in the other direction. As for how thick it is, it's a little bit difficult to tell because the dimensions of the watch are so much larger than this dimension. You know, you can see that this looks approximately the same thickness, but you got to remember that that other one is like almost a centimeter bigger. It's like 0.8 of a centimeter larger than this. So it could be substantially thicker, which also could end up being a problem in terms of daily wearability. As you can see from this picture here, the front picture, there's a nice crown guard here, which actually keeps things safe so you can't accidentally bonk these. There is, you know, the standard side pusher and the crown that you can rotate. There are also 3 microphones, 2 different GPS signal frequencies, so that you can actually locate yourself much, much more accurately than you could with the other version of the Apple Watch. A 36-hour battery, which is very, very nice. So that's a day and a half. Or if you go into sort of low power mode, it's supposed to last 60 hours between charges, which of course is about 2.5 days. It also has different band straps. It has a running band strap, an alpine band strap, which is this sort of nylon one in the middle, and then a water sports one here on the right that I guess squishes a little bit, and so it actually kind of like adjusts itself to the changes in your wrist dimensions. You can see how the running one also does that. Supposedly there's a quick fit on this as well. And of course, over time, there will be other options for bands for these watches. So it'll be interesting to see how the watch band ecosystem evolves. It's also, as shown here, got this really nice night view, which basically means you can rotate the crown and the whole thing goes red so that you don't burn your eyes out at night. So if you're stargazing or if you're walking through the woods at night and you don't want to burn your eyes out, you can lift your wrist and you can look at the watch without blinding yourself. In addition, you can see this watch face has a lot of information. It has your altitude. I assume it would also do it in meters as well. It's got your compass heading, longitude, latitude, time. I assume a timer as well if you're doing like kind of timed things. So if you're doing waypoint sort of things, you can also press, I believe, the crown to set waypoints as you're walking. So basically you can set compass/GPS waypoints as you go, and that can lead you back home again if you wander off too far and get lost. And as they're showing here, the watch is supposed to operate between 0 and 130 degrees Fahrenheit, or somewhere around, what is that, minus 14 degrees centigrade to about 50 degrees centigrade-ish. I don't have those numbers exactly in my head, but I think that's about correct. So anyway, it's got a much wider operating temperature than the regular Apple Watch does. And this extra button on the side is a custom button, which you can assign to one of many different functions. For example, if you're running laps or something like that, you can set it to a lap timer, so you push it and it automatically goes to the next lap. And finally, as a safety feature, it has an 86 decibel alarm that you can set off. So if something goes horribly wrong, you can set the watch and have it scream away. So as long as people can get reasonably close to you, they will be able to find you because they will be able to hear the watch. And of course, if you get the Apple 14 that's coming out with the satellite emergency beacon thing, you'll be able to push that, send a text message saying, hey, I'm lost, and then set the alarm on your watch and have it scream so that if people get into the area and figure out where you are, they can then hear you and they can come to you, even if you're injured or something like that. So there's some nice safety features built in for extreme athletes in this watch. But as I said, it feels an awful lot like it was designed for a person like me, who's a little bit of a weekend warrior. Again, if I had the time and the money, I would travel all the time and be trekking and surfing and mountain climbing and doing all of that kind of stuff. But I don't have the time or the money. So basically, I kind of do it catch as catch can. And what I really want is a watch that I can wear like every day, all the time. And then if I go on an adventure, there it is and it's waiting waiting for me. And so if you look at a watch like this, the regular Apple Watch, this is a great daily wearer and it's okay for doing a little bit of sport, but I always take it off when I do any kind of relatively extreme thing like rock climbing and stuff, which is ironic because of course the stuff that I do that's like the most exercise doesn't even get credited by the watch because I don't wear it. So I would be able to wear the Apple Watch Ultra as opposed to this watch under those circumstances. It would also, for most recreational divers, replace the Scuba Pro Z1 or whatever dive computer you have. Interestingly enough, for divers, you can see that what they do is they actually use the Oceanic Plus app, and I actually looked at the Oceanic Geo 4, which I imagine probably is about the same thing. This app actually allows you to use nitrox and other air mixes, and if you don't know what that is, it doesn't matter, but basically it's a really nice thing for most advanced recreational divers. You can use mixtures of gases. I doubt it will allow you to do things like trimix or anything like that, especially since it only has a 40-meter depth rating. So it doesn't make any sense for it to be beyond just a recreational diver, but for a recreational diver, the thing's probably going to be pretty good, and if it uses the Oceanic app, it will probably behave more or less like this watch, of course in color, a little bit nicer looking, but you can see that this watch just by itself is $420, so that's half the price of the Apple Watch Ultra just for the scuba diving watch, and you don't need that watch anymore. And then finally, you've got a watch that's sort of sporty elegance here, right? So it's a dive watch, and at the same time, it's also, pretty nice. I'm wearing this on a NATO strap, so it's kind of dressed down, but I also, of course, have the stainless steel strap, which is all stainless steel and looks very elegant, and you can wear it to a more dressy occasion with a business suit or something like that. So this, of course, while it's a traditional watch, does have a really nice feature, which is that you can wear it on more dressy occasions. And at the same time, you can wear the Apple Watch on more dressy occasions, perhaps not with this rubber band, but with a nicer band. It's pretty stealthy, right? It's relatively dark. It looks nice. It'll fit underneath your shirt sleeve, so it works pretty well in a relatively fancy environment. Probably wouldn't wear it with a tux, but for a business suit or something like that, it's become quite common for people to wear the Apple Watch or other types of watches like this with a relatively formal outfit. So great, the Apple Watch will do pretty much everything I want it to, surfing, mountain climbing, scuba diving, running, cycling, I'm sure as well, stuff like that. It will do all of those things, and it integrates with Apple's ecosystem much, much better than the Garmin Descent will ever do, and it's less expensive than something like the Garmin Descent. So if I don't need a watch that will do technical diving, and honestly, if I wanted to go technical diving, I would have this watch instead, but I'd have to get trained to do technical diving, so that's a whole extra thing. But anyway, for a recreational diver, and especially one that's not diving all the time, this seems like a pretty good choice. So what is my hesitation about buying this watch? Well, the hesitation is honestly the size and the color. So if we switch back here, you can see that the color, it's a titanium, but it's a very, very light color that they've put on. I personally, because of the stealthness of it, really appreciate the anodized space gray. I think that's what this is called. But the darker color associated with this watch, because it makes it much more subtle and it makes it blend in a whole lot better. Now, I have a feeling that the Apple Watch Ultra is something that Apple doesn't want people to hide and for it to blend in. They want it to stand out. And that's one of the reasons they gave it this very, very bright color. The other, of course, is this is a natural color of titanium. And so you would have to do some sort of anodizing on it or something like that to make it a darker color. As for the weight, because it's titanium, it's probably really relatively light. In fact, it might actually be as light as this watch. But the final and biggest issue that I have potentially with this watch for a kind of a daily wearer and something that will be a complete chameleon that you can use for everything is the size. If you look at this, this is a guy's wrist. I have a 7.5-inch wrist, by the way, a relatively large wrist, but you can see that this is a man's wrist and this watch is taking up the whole wrist. And more than likely they got a relatively big wristed guy so that the watch wouldn't look excessively large on him, but still it's quite big. And it also might be quite thick, which means that if you were wearing a long sleeve shirt, it might be difficult to hide the watch underneath it. It's certainly not going to be as stealthy because it's not as dark as the Apple Watch that I'm used to. So I feel like it might stand out too much to be a daily wearer and to wear to teaching or to business meetings or things like that. So that is my one concern with this. I suppose a smaller concern that might go with this is just the fact that if I'm spending $800, I'm not positive that I really want to go surfing with this. You take tumble surfing and you hit rocks and all sorts of other nasty things happen. And when you go alpine climbing or rock climbing, very often your arm is wedged into something and you're scraping it into like crevices and stuff like that. So I'm not positive that I would want to wear this watch under those type of extreme activities. But the bigger concern that I have than that is just the fact that it's really big and it's pretty bright. And I'm not sure that I could get away with wearing it every day. So what is my plan? Well, I'm not going to go run out and buy it on September 23rd. What I will do instead is go to an Apple store and I will actually try it on. And I'll see what I think once I get to try it on in person. In the meantime, this is the first watch in years. Like I said, this is an Apple Watch Series 3 and they're up to Series 8 or 9 right now. But this is the first Apple Watch in a long time that I've been like, I think I actually need to get that watch. So what do you think about the Apple Watch Ultra? I would be really interested to know what you think in the comments. And of course, if you have a different opinion about all of this or any of these elements, definitely let me know in the comments because I would be really curious to find out. All right, I hope you enjoyed this episode and found it fun and interesting and thought-provoking. And I hope you enjoyed getting to see like a little bit of my collection of watches here. Anyway, if you did enjoy the video, please do like it so other people can find it. And of course, consider subscribing for more of this kind of content. As always, a huge shout out to my patrons on Patreon. Thank you all so much for your support. I truly appreciate it. I think I will see a couple of you in San Diego, and it looks like I might be going to Florida in October. So if you live in Florida, stay tuned. And in the meantime, if you want to join the team, just check out the link in the description. And if you're interested in a whole bunch of really cool merch, check out our merch store. Link is in the description. We have Tesla Bot t-shirts, the Tesla meme t-shirt, Success is a Possible Outcome, 4680 battery cells. All of that stuff is on t-shirts, mugs, tumblers, and on and on. So check it out. And for those of you interested in investing, check out WeBull, an amazing platform for buying and selling stocks, and now cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin, Dogecoin, and others. Open an account and get a free stock valued at up to $200, and fund your account and get another free stock valued at up to $1,600. Check out the link in the description and help the channel at the same time. Thank you. And finally, don't forget we are both Tesla and Amazon affiliates. If you look in the description, you can see how going shopping for a solar roof, a power wall, or anything on Amazon helps out the channel. In the meantime, I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.